Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about 7 places in the European region that are great for slow travel. These might not be the top bucket list cities that you may have heard about, but these are great places in their own right. If you're new here, my name is Kyria, and in 2024 I retired early to pursue a life of travel and adventure. So let's get started. I'm going to go over these in order of least expensive to most expensive based on a 1-month rental in just at the outskirts of the city center, so within walking distance of the city center and main attractions. And the 1-month rental will have a kitchen, washer, Wi-Fi, TV, and it will be your own apartment. So that's the criteria I've put in. So if you are willing to stay a little bit further out, you could get something a little bit cheaper. And if you want to be right smack dab in the middle of the city center, you would have to raise the price a little bit. And keep in mind that usually my accommodation is 50% of my total monthly cost. So obviously, if you eat out more than I do, because I don't eat out very much, then that's going to go up a little bit. But that could just be an estimate for how much this would cost for a whole month. These prices are also shoulder season. So if you're wanting to go in the high season, it's going to be more expensive. And if you're willing to go in a low season, it would be less expensive. So let's get started. The first one is Tbilisi, Georgia. I spent a month here and I absolutely loved it. It's a bigger city, but it doesn't feel like a large city. And if you're staying close to the historical district, the old town, then you can easily walk pretty much anywhere. And if you want to get any further out, they have a great bus system that you can just tap to pay to get on and off. And it actually costs about 60 cents USD to ride the bus. So it's very easy. It's also very inexpensive. The other thing about Tbilisi is it's not necessarily centrally located geographically in the country, but it's easy enough to get day trips to a lot of other of the far-flung places. You can get a day trip to the wine region. You can get a day trip to the mountains. You could get a day trip to Bajormi, where they have the mineral water. So there's a lot of different things that you could do while you're there. You could also, even if you wanted to, get a day trip to Yerevan, Armenia. So if you're wondering if you're going to get bored, personally, I think no. There are also plenty of things to do activity-wise in Tbilisi. If you watched any of my videos, you know I love hiking and running and biking. And in Tbilisi, there's plenty of all of that. From town, you can actually go on mountain bike trails. You can go on running trails, both paved and unpaved. And you have plenty of opportunities for hiking. It's actually a quite hilly city. The old town is in a little bowl, and then right next to it is a mountain, so you can hike up the mountain if you want to. And they even have a train system. It's a little bit slow, but you could get out to the coast if you wanted to, or various other places on the train. The other thing about Tbilisi, if you're into food or wine, you're going to have no trouble finding great options for both. Georgia is also rich with history. So if you're into any of that kind of thing, there's plenty of museums, churches, and other things like that to explore. The other thing about Tbilisi is there's a great scene for expats. So you have a lot of different expat groups, running groups, hiking groups, and there's trivia nights, there's expat bars, there's all kinds of different community things you can do if you're interested in that kind of thing. The accommodation for a 1-month stay in Georgia costs about $900 US. And I forgot to mention, these are going to be 1-bedroom apartments. The next place is Bansko, Bulgaria. Now, this one might not be a good fit for everybody because it is a very small town. But if you're into small town life, hiking, eating, and just basically relaxing in the mountains, this is a great place for you. The other thing about Bansko is there's a very large expat and digital nomad scene. So if you're looking for a community, you're going to have no trouble finding it there. When I was there, I actually met up with a bunch of people for cycling. I met up with a couple of people to run, and I ended up joining a mountain biking race. I mean, it was really easy to find people to do activities with. Like I said, though, it is quite small. So if you get bored easily, you might not need a whole month in Bansko. In that case, you might want to try Plovdiv, which is a little bit of a bigger town and has more opportunities for things to do. The only thing about Bansko that's a little bit difficult as well is the transportation is okay. It's not super frequent. So first of all, getting around town, there's not really any public transportation, but it's a small town. You can walk anywhere. I mean, I think from one end to the other, it's maybe 2.5 miles or something. It's not a large place. But getting to, for instance, Sofia or Plovdiv is going to take you 2.5 to 3 hours on the bus. And the bus doesn't come very often. It might only run 2 times a day in some cases, like to Plovdiv. So you just have to take that into consideration. It's not something that you're going to be able to get places very easily outside of town. The accommodation for a 1 month stay in Bansko is approximately $1,000. Keep in mind that Bansko's high season is actually ski season, so the months of November, December, January, February are going to be more expensive than the months of June, July, August, September. The next place is Vilnius, Lithuania. As you know, if you've seen my video that I did about Vilnius, I fell in love with Vilnius. I really enjoyed Vilnius. It has a nice little downtown, old town area. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's really fun just to wander around the old town. But if you kind of go outside of that area, you're going to find just a nice local vibe. And also there's plenty of museums, historical sites, and history to explore, as well as a ton of different green spaces and outdoor activities. So if you watched my video, you know that I rented a bike, and the bike trails and paths are just excellent. I went out to a couple of different sites on the bike, a couple of lakes. There's a river right in the middle of the town, and you can ride your bike on the river for miles and miles and miles, or you can even ride out to different towns outside. And as far as running or hiking, there are a bunch of parks and green spaces in town, or if you want to go a little further out, you're going to have lots of opportunities. Now, it's not the most hilly city, and so if you're looking for like mountain climbing, you're not going to find that, but if you just want to make sure you move your body every day, you're going to have no trouble doing that in Vilnius. Also, the public transportation is very easy to use. You can just tap to pay, and the train system in the country is excellent. So you can go out to different places like Trakai or Konus, which I've did videos about as well. So there's tons of opportunities for day trips within an hour or two. Or if you want to go out a little bit further, the trains go there too. In addition, the trains and public transportation are very inexpensive, as well as the cost of living in general is fairly inexpensive. There are a lot of outdoor communities as well. I looked into a park run. I wasn't there on a Saturday, but they do have a park run on Saturday, as well as other cycling and running groups. Cost for accommodation near the city center in Vilnius is about $1,500. The next place is Granada, Spain. Granada just really, again, stole my heart, kind of like Vilnius. It is a city that is kind of surrounded by hills, and so it's very picturesque. It has a very vibrant old town. It also has, of course, the Muslim influence, so it has some interesting architecture. It has a lot of history. It has some good museums and, of course, excellent food. And the best thing about Granada is that if you order a drink, you get a free tapa. So you could easily just order a couple of drinks and almost have enough food for dinner. Also, the people are very warm and friendly. However, speaking of weather, the high season in Granada is actually March, like February, March, April, because it's cooler. And the low season is actually summer because it gets so hot. So that's one thing to take into consideration if you're thinking about going to Granada. The other good thing about Granada is public transportation is very easy to use, and you can get to other cities in Spain if you're interested in going a little further afield. For instance, Malaga is about an hour and a half. Seville is about 2.5 hours, maybe 3, depending on what method you take. And then Madrid is about 3.5 or 4 hours. So it's pretty easy to get around. The train system is good. They also have a bus option. And so it's a great option for slow travel. The one thing I didn't look into for Granada is the community aspect. However, I went for a little hike. I went with my dad and my brother, and they were still sleeping. And so I went for a little hike, and everybody I saw on the trails was saying hello. It was just very friendly, warm people. The cost for 1 month of accommodation in Granada is approximately $1,500. The next place is Lyon, France. Sure, everybody's heard of Paris, but not as many people have heard as much about Lyon. But Lyon has tons of stuff to do. It's actually a city of about, I think, 1.5 million people, but it doesn't feel like that at all. It sits right on the confluence of 2 rivers, and so it's very picturesque, lots of running trails, walking trails. It's easy to get around. There you have a metro system, they have a bus system, they have a ton of different museums and historical sites. They have the silk workers industry. There's a lot of history to be learned about that. You can go into the traboules, which are the passageways that the silk workers used to use. And just outside of town, there's also a little bit of dirt hiking trails and things like that. So you have a lot of opportunities to do things. In addition, the community aspect in Lyon was excellent. I found a really nice group of people who do coffees and hikes and language learning and lots of other meetups. and even have a free co-working space. The other thing about Lyon is although it's cold, I was there in February and I didn't have any issues with the weather, and I was still able to go out and hike and run and whatnot. Also, if you want to get out of town and do a day trip or a weekend trip, you can get to Paris within a couple hours. You can get to Dijon within a couple hours. You can get to the cute little mountain town of Annecy, which I did a video about, and that only takes a couple hours as well. And I also did a video about going skiing in the Alps, which I did as a day trip, and it was quite easy. So if you're looking to get a little bit of variety, you're not going to have any trouble doing that there. The cost of accommodation for 1 month in Lyon is approximately $1,800. The next place is Ljubljana, Slovenia. If you watch my video about the places I would return to after traveling to 60 countries, I did a video about that here. And Slovenia is a country that I really just adored. It's a very tiny country, but it has pretty much everything. So you can go to the beach, you can go to the wine region, you can go to the mountains, or you could just stay in Ljubljana, which is a very cute city in its own right. There's a lot of history there to explore, plus there are many fine dining restaurants, and it's a very walkable city. In addition, to get from Ljubljana into the mountains or to places like Bled or the coast, it really doesn't take very long. I went hiking in Slovenia. I did part of the Slovenian Mountain Trail, which goes through the Alps in Slovenia. And it was very easy for me, once I got to a town, to get a bus to any other place within an hour or maybe two at most. So it's very user-friendly, and the bus system is excellent. And I had no trouble getting around in Slovenia. Also, there's a very active community there. When I was hiking, there's tons of people hiking. There's also tons of cyclists, and a lot of people go and cycle through the Triglav National Park. It's just really easy to get outside and be active. I didn't make it to the coast or the wine region. Unfortunately, I ran out of time, but I've heard great things about both of those. They have a little piece of coast near Italy, and it's supposed to be very beautiful. The cost of accommodation for 1 month in the center of Ljubljana is approximately $2,000. The next one is Manchester, England. Of course, everyone's been to London or heard of London and wants to go to London and see Big Ben, but don't pass up Manchester. It's a little bit of a smaller feel, but it still has just as much history, beautiful buildings, and lots of things to do. They have got a lot of good museums, lots of good food, and of course, soccer, or football as they call it. So you won't find a lack of things to do in Manchester. Also, if you want to go a little bit further afield, you can easily get to the Peaks District, which is only about an hour away, the Lakes District, which is only a couple hours away, and you can even get a train to London in a couple of hours. You, of course, have Leeds and York and Birmingham, a lot of different places that are very close by, so it's very kind of nicely centrally located if you want to go a little bit farther out. But if you want to just stay in Manchester, you won't run out of things to do. The transportation is great. There's a whole train network. There are several different train stations in the city of Manchester that go pretty much anywhere. And for the bus system, you can just pay on the bus. The only downside to Manchester is that it is a little bit more expensive. So a 1 month accommodation in the center of Manchester is about $3,000 US. Like I said at the beginning though, all these places are assuming you want to stay in the center. If you're willing to stay a little further out, you could get a place for 2/3 or sometimes even half of the price that I've talked about here. And again, if you go in the off season, it might be even less. So these are kind of middle of the road numbers, and so you can adjust them depending on what you're willing to put up with. So hopefully this is helpful. These are just scratching the surface of the places that you can go to slow travel to. And I'll continue to update you on new places once I test them out. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Happy travels. Also, these places are going to be not in the high season. So if you want to, I have a cat. He's touching the camera. So if you want to go to these places,